All right, so we'll go ahead and start, and if anybody comes in, we'll let them join us. So, welcome officially today, and my name is Taryn, also known as Taryn.phd, and you've got my contact information with you, and if you have any questions when we're finished, please, by all means, reach out to me and let me know. I tend to go and talk real quickly, so I'm going to make sure I intentionally talk a little slower and a little clearer. So at this tone, can everyone hear me all right too? Just want to make sure I'm coming through. Okay, good.
Andy and I are going to have to leave. We have an appointment, so if it's before, just know it's not you.
That's what everybody says. No, that's totally fine. Yeah, please do. And again, that is roughly 5 minutes fast. So anytime you need to go, please, by all means. And I think even if you have to leave early, we're probably going to go about 40, 45 minutes. And I always leave like 15 minutes of Q&A. So yeah, if you leave when it's Q&A time, whatever, you got my email, let me know if there's anything, please. Yeah, certainly. And again, I'll make sure that I don't go too fast, but at the same time, I like to stay on point and whatever's relevant to the presentation. One more thing too, for the Q&A that's intentionally left at the end, I do ask that if you do have any questions during the presentation or any comments, just please reserve them at the very end when it's time, and I'm actually going to come to you with the microphone so that whatever question or comments it is can be recorded to the folks if they want to watch the recording too. So that always helps when we're done. Are there any questions before we get going at all? Okay, and everybody's in the right spot, so that's good. This is officially called The Science of Purpose, Longevity, and Living Fully at Any Age. Again, my name is Taryn. And I come out here every quarter about roughly to do a different topic in a presentation. I was just explaining before we were recording that the last time I came out to Fayette Senior Services was at the Fayetteville location. And at that talk, I was addressing a problem, something known as tech neck, where you've probably heard that term. Pretend this is a cell phone. Our cell phones and our neck goes like this for a long period of time. And over time, a lot of us are walking like this or can find ourselves with a forward neck posture. And we find that's very common now, unfortunately. And that was a real visible physical problem that we could see. Today's a little different. Today, I think this is arguably more important because today, in this topic, we're going to tackle something that's an invisible problem, not so much physical, but more emotional, more mental. And so that's where the term, psychological and science comes into play in terms of today's presentation. So let's talk about the objectives for a moment here. I have them on the screen. This is what we're going to try to get through in the next 40, 45 minutes as we're going along. And so as we're talking about purpose and longevity, I want to make it clear that this presentation, this is not going to be a motivational speech. That's not the purpose of today. I can easily come up here and tell you, life is good, don't give up and all that, that's fine. But I don't want to insult anyone's intelligence. For today, you're going to have more research-based evidence and empirical data that I'm going to be sharing. What do the experts say about longevity? What do scientists find with what purpose connects to our lifespan, health span? We'll talk about what that means here. And what do all the professionals in the field, like the psychologists, say? And we'll have statistics to share with you as well, because that's what I do mostly for a full-time living. I own my own personal training practice. I'm also a doctoral research chair, so I spend a lot of time studying a lot of what the research says. So that's hopefully what this presentation, what we're going to get through here as we're discovering, and again, I think this will probably be arguably my most fun presentation I'm doing, because this is something that I go through every single day whenever I'm working with different clients and seeing people, because a lot of times, and I'll just go ahead and preface this, the majority of my clientele are seniors, and a lot of them I'll hear things like, what do I have to live for? All my friends are dying. Am I even relevant anymore? I've been retired for so long, and what's the next stage in life? So that's hopefully the goal of today's lesson plan, in terms of seeing, maybe we can tackle that head on and see, because that's very dangerous. Those questions that I just asked, hypothetically, that's a very dangerous position to be in mentally, and that's what all the scientists say, because according to science and research, that can be both dangerous physically and mentally, okay, when we ask questions like that. So, and again, I'm just going to throw the question out there. And again, whenever I have a question, you can either nod or raise your hand and say yes. But again, have we heard questions like that? I'm just getting too old. I don't have much left. Maybe we have friends or even family that say things like this. Everybody I know is gone. And again, what is the next steps for me? What do I have to look forward to? And again, you don't have to participate. But again, if show of hands, doesn't have to be us, but can we relate to that by anybody that we know that said something like this? We might have heard, yeah, right? All of us have seen that, right? Absolutely. And so we hear that a lot, and it's fair questions, right? But again, as I mentioned, if we do hear this, whether it be from someone really close to us, we want to ensure that we can answer that with good logic. And again, I want to say this and back up, not saying, hey, I'll be your cheerleader, I'll be your coach, life's worth living, but rather, well, what does hardcore evidence show us? And that's what we're going to really dive into as we jump into this lesson today. So what does enjoy every sandwich mean? First, by show of hands, has anybody read that book, listened to the book, or heard of the book in this room? Great, that's even better. That's really good. So then I can share with you what that book is. It's a story of a gentleman by the name of Dr. Lipsenthal, and he was a very highly regarded doctor, very young, physician as an internist, and he was also on as the head of the board of the holistic practice of medicine, as well as being, again, a board doctor and an MD. And so he had a very successful career of treating patients for things like various heart conditions. I think that was what he was most well known for, or cancer, or any type of cholesterol problems, hypertension, things of that nature. And back in around 2009, that's what he was doing as a career path. Very busy, very, again, highly acclaimed. That was his career. And so about 2009, he sat down, and his doctor sat him down and said, I have some news to tell you, that you have stage 4 esophageal cancer, and you have less than a year to live. And so after that, he decided, I'm going to write a book called Enjoy Every Sandwich. He had already published many publications previously that are peer-reviewed in journal articles, but this was actually where he was going to write a book about being hit really hard in the face with that realization. He says life is not measured in years, but rather in moments. And he gets to that point of, well, what does that mean? What does enjoy every sandwich really mean? It sounds like a funny title, sounds like a catchy tune, but there is a meaning behind that, and we're going to kind of explore that. So he wrote that book, it got published, and sure enough, he did die less than a year later. So that's about 17 years ago that we're talking about. I was gifted this book about probably maybe 10 years ago, maybe longer, from one of my clients. And so it had me thinking about the idea of kind of putting this presentation together in the first place, because I think I mentioned to you, I'll use one of my clients as an example. One of my clients is 90 years old. Next month, he's going to turn 91. And every time I meet with him, he asks a lot of those questions that we saw on the board just a couple of slides ago. Telling me that all of his friends are gone, why is he still here, and what does he have to look forward to? And so I hear this a lot, but I think of him because when I heard his name and mention this, telling me this, it had me thinking that this would be a great idea to put this together and kind of give the evidence, so to speak, here in a presentation. So we have something called the longevity paradox, and we have two different concepts here in the first line. Health span versus lifespan. I'm going to explain to you really what that means, generally speaking. Health span is more important, as it says, than lifespan. Well, let's start with lifespan. Lifespan is just the amount of years we're going to live. And in this example, in the second line, we may live to 100 years old, okay? Health span is the second part of this second sentence. Where it says, would we rather live a shorter lifespan, but a healthier health span, where we're more, what they say, vibrant and engaged. So, some of you remember this comedian by the name of Rodney Dangerfield, and he was excellent at telling different jokes and stories and humor. But he would proudly pound his chest and say, my wife and I were married more than 50 years together. And his friend had mentioned, wow, gosh, that's a long time to be happily married. And he backed up and he said, when did I say I was happily married? We were married for 50 years and it was the most miserable. But that you get to the point of saying, okay, well, would we rather live to 100 miserable, or would we rather live 90? I hope that most of us in this room would pick the latter, right? That's where it's getting to the point of how do we make this healthier? How do we improve our health span? Because the goal, it said a couple of slides ago, should not be measured in the number of years, so it's not more, so much quantified, but is more qualified, the quality of our life. And so that's a really good way if we could kind of turn that question around and look at that in a different way. The Harvard study of adult development, as it says, it was one of the longest studies ever conducted. In fact, 1938 is when it started and went over 85 years. They were assessing different types of mood and emotion and psychological regulation of individuals. And this was a very comprehensive study. I mean, it would have to be for that study to be that long. And what they found out is their major kind of key conclusion was the fact of good relationships keeping everyone healthier and happier. Not so much money. That wasn't an indicator to keep people happy and healthy. Money's good, right? But is it like the major finding of a study this long? No. Not fame or notoriety or power. That wasn't listed as something that was there at the end, because the individuals that were asked and given questionnaires and put through the comprehensive study, they were just being very honest, again, what were the determining factors there? Well, good relationships was the final result. And so that's really interesting. One time, a couple of years ago, when I was doing a presentation on centenarians, the people who are 100 years old or better, they would also concur that this was something that kept them going. When the people that were over 100 years old, how did you do it? How do you manage to still live? And they never talked about, you got to get as much money as possible, or you got to get, famous, or you have to, climb the ladder in work and be as successful as possible. None of that mattered at that point. It was more so that the common denominator was that they talked about family, they talked about their personal life, who they were connected to, they talked about relatedness, things of that nature. And so that was kind of interesting. When you have a study like that that's conducted, that probably holds some merit, we would think, right? So I would hope so in that case. This is another really big one here. When you talk about social isolation, the factors that have the connection linking loneliness with mortality risk. And it is very true. In fact, roughly 26 to 32% of impact is the increase of what loneliness can do with mortality risk. It can raise it about 26 to 32% given in that percentage range. And so we know that, as it says, social isolation affecting both emotional and physical health. So we know the emotional part of it, but the problem is this part here, the physical health. It was like, well, how can social isolation have a detrimental effect on our physical health? Well, what the doctors and physicians and medical experts are all agreeing is that being lonely is almost as bad as things like smoking and living a sedentary lifestyle and being morbidly obese. All of those, by the way, very dangerous risk factors that adversely affect our physical health. And that's why they're saying whatever we can do to combat being lonely, that's what we need to work on. Okay, and so how would we do that? That's going to lead into some questions that we're going to think about. And again, when we talk about people who do have a longer lifespan, this is the list that empirically they'll be able to tell us. And that's what we need to learn from those people who live to 80, 90, 100, and so forth. As you can see, strong social ties, daily movement, sense of purpose, optimism, community involvement. Do any of these cost money? No, I mean, pretty much, they should all pretty much be free, aren't they? You didn't see a list that said fancy cars and dressing real nicely and going out to exquisite restaurants and things like that. What we see on here are, again, kind of branches of things that are kind of important to those folks when they said strong relationships. And so that's really interesting to see. Again, it's really, really crucial to identify that. Now, of course, there's outliers. We'll hear people saying, well, then how do you explain people who die suddenly, like Dr. Lipsenthal, right? That might be a good question, It might not have been because he didn't appreciate these, but rather sometimes there are outliers where people get a bad luck of the draw. All of us in here, again, anybody by show of hands, we probably know somebody who was taken far too young by, say, cancer. Anybody besides me? I mean, yeah, I would guess that there'd be people. Or how about a cardiovascular, like heart disease, heart attack? Anybody, somebody way too young, right? I know that we all can share a story like that. We all see that all the time. That happens, and none of us are immortal as far as on this planet Earth. Today, as we leave, I mean, using me as an example, I could drive out of here and bam, I could be gone with a car accident. It happens every single day. And so nothing's guaranteed, but while we're here, this would be really good for us to focus on. And then also, there's a calculation or a formula here saying purpose predicting survival. It's interesting. Higher purpose in life associating with better well-being, cognitive health, and longevity. So let's pause and think about that for a second. So wherever we're at in life, in terms of whether it's a spiritual life or a religious life or a philosophical life or what have you, anything that gets us there, if we're big on meditating, if we're big on mindful stress reduction and stress management, anything that we're thinking of that we're talking about right now, this would be interesting to think about in terms of having a higher purpose. What happens when people retire from their work, when they're, say, 55, 60, 65, and they stop, and they're not working anymore? Their sense of purpose may change, right? And they might think, well, now that I'm retired, what next? Now what? Are people who are multi-millionaires who have stopped working, are they all of a sudden, bingo, just very happy? Because we assume, well, gosh, they've got to be incredibly happy. They've got all that money in the bank. How could they not be? Some of the people that we see that are mostly depressed can be very wealthy, affluent people, right? We see that all the time. And I see it all the time with personal training. Whenever I talk to people, of like, gosh, they've got that huge mansion and they've got everything they want, but they're just not happy, though, we can tell. And so they might have a different reason of why they're going, right? Any one of us, we all have a different reason. And so if we were to ask the question, what gets us up in the morning, we can all probably be all over the place, right? Think about this right now, in your head right now. All of us should have one thing in our mind of why we got up in the morning that motivated us, that got us kick-started out of bed. So again, it could be anything. It could be something as easy as looking forward to that first cup of coffee. It could be that alarm clock that got us up because, like, oh, I got to do this. I've got this errand to run. I've got to help with the grandchildren. I've got to go out there because today's grocery day and I got to go out there and stock the grocery. But we want to think, again, about what got us up in the morning. What is so important for us to, be wherever we're going to. Like today, we had a meeting here at 1:30 to be in the classroom together. So hopefully there was something that was important that we can think about in our mind of like, well, what did get us up in the morning? Why would I have to wake up? And then tomorrow, what would get me up for tomorrow morning? What's so important that I'm looking forward to? What do I have going on this weekend? So we want to stop and kind of concentrate on that. And I think that's probably what Dr. Lipsenthal was talking about when he talks about enjoy every sandwich. He was just using the sandwich as kind of a mundane, ordinary, normal thing that we have every day, right? Like that, I'm a coffee guy, like a cup of coffee, rather than just going robotically and mechanically through the day operations of getting up, having a cup of coffee, going off to work or what have you. Rather, I think he's telling us to just stop and just appreciate the moment, whether it's a cup of coffee, like, wow, I get to have this cup of coffee, or wow, I get to go and do this, whatever I'm going to, a class, like an exercise class at Fayette Senior Services, what have you. And so I think that's something to kind of concentrate on and think about. And then, again, going back to the 90-year-old client that I was mentioning just a few moments ago, the question being, what do I have left to live for? what if we took the question and kind of reversed it and went backwards and asked it in a reverse mirror kind of way? Who still needs me? You know, what if, and in his case, grandchildren, right? I just mentioned that. You know, maybe if we have grandchildren, maybe they still need us. You know, who else? Maybe our children, right? Maybe somebody who we are in a relationship with, our close friends, community, Fayette Senior Services, maybe they would really miss us, right? If we were not here, or our church, or a group that we belong to, or you know, a volunteering group. You know, if there, I guarantee, if you ask any company or any institution that has a community with volunteering, they would never say, "Oh, we're good. We have enough volunteers." They always are looking for people to help, right? And so again, we can answer this list with a long list of people that would certainly miss us if we weren't here. So that's so important to focus on and really answer that question. So if we know somebody like my friend who keeps asking that question, we want to remind them, gosh, if you weren't here, you know how many people would really be upset and that count on you? And that might be something that might help, you know, kind of give better credence to why they still need to be here. They still have a lot of sense. And same with us. We still have a strong purpose to still be here because we have a lot of left to do in life. Speaking of grandparents, you know, there may be some in this room. And what do grandparents do for grandchildren in that case, you know, if they weren't here? A grandchild really relies on that grandparent for things like wisdom, stability, etc. Only things that in that case, by the way, that a grandparent can do that maybe a parent can't. A grandparent can certainly tell a lot more of the history of their family lineage, to their grandchild than the parent probably could, I would guess, right? They could probably have better memories of and recall, well, you know, back in this day before your dad or mom was even born, things were like this. They might be able to help them with financial success and say, you know, here's why I started my Roth IRA or my 401k account or what have you. Or they might tell them, you know, what's important from a perspective lens of someone who's 85 years old versus their teenage kid who's 15, or their kid who's a grandkid who's like 10, or even less than that, and be able to, you know, have a good connection with them. You know, any of us who have had grandparents or remember our grandparents, I'm sure we think very fondly of them, you know, in high regard, because again, you know, they were the start of wherever, you know, that family hierarchy got us to this point. And, you know, again, the whole stability of, you know, grandparents being who we go to for that stability, and also the identity of the family, the wisdom, and everything else that we can relate to them. So that's really important, you know, again, just to be able to have that connection. So even if we're not a grandparent, we can see that, you know, we respect elders because, again, those elders have been through things that we may not have, or maybe we've been through things that our children and their children haven't been through, that we can have them relate to. And so again, you know, the legacy still being written, the impact we have on others continues every day. That's really important. That's solid to think about. You know, again, I don't think that anybody's going to be here and think, well, gosh, you know, whenever I'm gone, I don't want to look back and say, gosh, you know, what did I miss out on? What could have I done to improve my legacy? You know, you hear it all the time that one of the most important things we have is who we are and how we are remembered and revered, hopefully, right? Nobody's going to look back and say, gosh, I'm so jealous because they had such a huge bank account, or they drove the best car in the neighborhood, or they had the biggest house, and blah, blah, blah. That's not going to matter at the point. What they're going to remember is what kind of person we were, right? They're probably going to remember if we were kind, generous, nice, pleasant, endearing, you know, empathetic, and being able to be somebody that could be supportive and encouraging. I think those, I would argue, would be more important. And the science backs it up too, by the way. The research will show that as well. The strength training prescription, this is a very important slide here. Strength supports what? Independence, balance, bone health, and confidence. Again, you know, this is really important because all of us in here, I'm guessing, are already over past age 30. And past age 30, we start to lose about 3 to 8% muscle density. Muscle strength is, again, about 3 to 8% variance that we already lose that we can't do anything about. That's when we were 30. So we can imagine what happens when we were 40 or 50 and so forth. And even after 60 too, this is what happens. It actually goes faster. It exponentially goes quicker. It says it accelerates after we're 60 years old. So how do we either slow it down or improve it? Well, it's with strength training. It's with maybe things that we could do here in like exercise classes or at home with free weights and so forth. And we'll actually have a little demonstration on some of those as well too. There's one called the sit to stand test. So, the sit to stand is a great way to measure how we're doing longevity wise. With a sit to stand, one of the things is for independence, the way we can measure that is if we are able to get off the chair without using our hands. That's hard for a lot of us. That might be kind of difficult, but that's something that we can practice. Most of you in here may be able to do that, but if we can't, we can certainly modify it. We can use our hands to help push ourselves up, and then over time try to get better at it and challenge ourselves with one hand and so forth, so we could do it with no hands. Or even better yet, maybe something that we might be able to do is to get up and off the floor, right? By a show of hands, is this something that anybody has had trouble or noticed a difference with in the last 5 years? Okay, there's a few hands going up. I notice it, and again, in the mornings, anybody besides me very stiff and tight in the mornings when we first wake up? Yeah, I see a lot of nodding heads going on. So something that we can practice, and one of the things when I did a fall prevention lecture, one of the things to practice is to fall correctly, right? And that might be just to kind of get used to falling. If we're going to fall, we want to make sure we fall the right way. And that means we're collapsing in that case. We don't want to fall like a tree. That would be the worst way to fall. And when we're on the floor, that might be something to practice. One of the functional exercises we could do are push-ups. Maybe if we can't do a full weighted push-up, we can try to do a modified push-up on the knees, because what that does is that helps. If I was to fall right now, a push-up functionally would help me remember in my muscle memory how to decelerate. So I'm not going too quickly. I'm not falling like a tree. Rather, if I trip and fall, I've already practiced my push-ups, and that might help me remember, oh yeah, my arms, I can do a push-up. So if we do that every day, say, I'm going to do 5 of these every day until my arms are getting stronger, my chest is getting stronger, my muscular endurance is improving. And by the way, also from a completely prone position, we might be able to say, I'm going to also practice getting up and off the floor as well, too. And then you can take it and change it up a little bit. You can say, you know what, from the side, I can try to get up this way. I can also try to get up from my back all the way up like this until we master that as well. So that might be things. And again, you could say, well, gosh, I'm nowhere close to that. That's okay. Maybe we can practice by using something as a chair or a wall when we're getting up. Maybe I can go like this. And you get the idea in progression. You can modify it. And then in little baby steps kind of get better at it each time. So that might help with that. And there's different strength training exercises that we can do as well. One of the things that we could do is balance. And balance, as it says, you can do this at any age. One of the ways that we can do balance is to do something called a heel-to-toe walk, like this, right? We've seen maybe something like this before. We're going in a straight line, and we're trying to walk heel in front of toe. They also call that the sobriety test, too. You've seen that probably. And then another thing, by a show of hands, anybody used something like this before, an exercise ball? Yeah, so we know there's a lot of things you can do on the ball. One of the things you could do is to balance and test yourself, challenge yourself, put your feet together, put one foot up. Can we do this? You can challenge, and can you do front kicks like this? Some of the things that you can do just balancing on the ball. What positions can you get at? Can you come down here so that you're here, ready to do some crunches or what have you? When you get off the ball, you can use the ball for other exercises, but you can also try lifting a leg and standing in one position. Some of the clients that I work with, they tell me while they're watching their favorite show, if a commercial's on, they'll challenge themselves, say, okay, while this commercial's on, I'm going to stand on one leg like this. And that's great, that's terrific. And then when the other commercial, I'm going to go like this, You can challenge your balance, also proprioceptive nerves too. You can go backwards like this. Or if you switch it up and close your eyes while you have your leg, that's really hard. That really throws up everything because then you lose your sense of balance. But the way to improve your balance is to challenge yourself. If you sharpen it by challenging and doing things that are imbalanced, that's what ironically helps with that balance. So if that makes sense, and that's one of the things that you can do, again, at any age, as it says, okay? And how about another real world one, groceries. I have a couple of weights. So as we've probably seen over the years, we get done with our grocery shopping, like, gosh, is it these bags getting heavier or is it just me? Certainly the price is getting a lot more for the groceries maybe, but let's just pretend that these are 2 grocery bags. Well, one of the things we could do is literally practice walking with the weights on our side. Because if I have these dumbbell weights and over time I'm practicing carrying the weights, then functionally that'll help the next time when I have a grocery or a grandchild to pick up or a favorite pet and I'm walking with them, it won't be as hard because then you're training your body to get used to that, different types of things. Obviously, with the weights, you can do your exercises. Everybody knows you could do the arms, you can do the legs with squats and lunges and etc. But that's one of the things to practice, and that's why it's incorporated in the presentation too, because it's getting to the point of functionality. Real world strength matters. So the stronger that we can get our body, as you saw a couple slides ago, it's the incorporating the strength training so that we can help things like our muscular endurance, our lean mass muscle tissue. Because again, as I mentioned, we're already losing it, so we have to do even more to slow it down and to increase muscle mass so that we can do better on that, if that makes sense. Okay. And then again, for the balance, we went over some of the balance ones too, but you can really start practicing a lot of those. That's why, like something like this, for example, if you have something that looks like this would be great because then you can practice step-ups. This is one of the best exercises for balance, by the way. You can go up here and always making sure you're careful. If you feel uncomfortable with it, put a chair next to you if you need to while you do this exercise. Everything is about modification if we need to, right? Everything can be modified. Okay, I feel a little bit better on that. That's fine. Or let's just say you step up and you do both feet, and then you come down with the opposite one. That's okay too. That mimics that functionality because, again, if you're going to go upstairs or downstairs, because a lot of times over time people get kind of nervous for their self-confidence awareness for steps. So this would be a great thing to practice. And then take it a little further. Go backwards on the stair, go sideways on the stair, and practice. But obviously practicing only for what you feel comfortable doing on any type of balance exercise, obviously, because you just want to, again, safety first. So when in doubt and you feel like, gosh, that's a little dangerous, a little risky, then don't do it. Or have somebody with you that can help while you're doing it. So far, so good. Does that make sense, some of those exercises? Okay, good. And then this one, let's see. Oh, it went backwards. Let's see what happened. Okay, movement is a privilege. So let's talk about this for a second. And this is concentrating on the things that, we still have, basically. If we lose something, then we might not appreciate it until it's gone, like the saying goes. But with walking, for example, if we knew today that we weren't able to walk tomorrow, we would appreciate it certainly right now, wouldn't we? So that's why it says the ability, everybody in here in this room, I watched you, you all have the ability to walk. Well, the great news is that is a gift. We should enjoy that right now. Just like, again, the concept of realizing, let's enjoy that as one of our sandwiches, the ability that we get to walk, or working out, it being a gift. A lot of people don't look forward to doing a lot of the stuff I just did because they're like, that's hard work. And hence that's why it says it's called a workout, because it's in the definition alone. But again, like using myself as an example, when I go to the gym and I work out, I do appreciate it because not only do I recognize that it's good for us, but I can feel the physiological changes and the benefits. of how it reduces stress too. You just feel so much better, right? I see a lot of nodding heads too. And so, with working out, we want to think about it that working out and strength training, we're not doing it just to look good and, for that moment, but we're also really doing it because we're kind of reinvesting in our own body, reinvesting in ourselves. That's what we're doing. We're wanting to make sure that we have a better, healthy, quality health span, okay, which should help indirectly our lifespan as well, too. And the happiness curve, the studies have shown that there's something that looks like a big letter U. For most people, most individuals, we start as babies, and you always see a baby's always very happy, right? Especially after it's been changed or fed or has had enough sleep. It's always happy. If you think about a big U curve, that's why little babies and toddlers are screaming, they're running around. You notice that for the most part, generally speaking, they're always happy. But then what happens on later in life? Well, oh gosh, we got to become more independent. We got to go get a job. We got to go finish school. We got to go move out of our parents' house, and we might got to be on our own. We might have to think about, gosh, am I supposed to get married or have a relationship, etc. And we have children. Oh my goodness, the U curve's really going down now, and so forth. And so you might think, gosh, this is really getting stressful. What they found is that over time, and this goes back to also with the Harvard study as well too, that over time things change and it goes back almost up here as we get older. Why? Because our perspective changes. We might feel a little bit more self-confident with where we're at in life and realize that we look at it and say, you know what, I'm actually really happy with where I'm at right now. And we might live to where we're thinking, I'm really happy with the way things turned out. Generally speaking, that's usually what happens later on in life that we can look forward to. And so that's the other really, really neat thing about when we realize as we're aging, we do have something to look forward to. That's great. And today is the youngest we'll ever be right now going forward at this moment. And so that's why we have to do what we can today with whether it's the exercises, whether it's concentrating on relationships, and not living with any regret, not looking back and saying, oh gosh, I should have done this or I shouldn't have done that, and so forth. Gratitude and well-being, there are studies that show that when we're grateful, it is associated with having a stronger emotional health. And this goes to the point of just going a little bit further. And I'll give you another example of a client who's a dentist. When I first started working with him and I was training him, I would always tell him, like, yeah, I got to go to the dentist tomorrow. And he would really get upset at that phrase that I would say. He'd say, what do you mean by that? And I said, yeah, I got to go to the dentist. It's my dental appointment. He says, you don't have to go to the dentist. You get to go to the dentist. He corrected me. He said, that's a privilege. That's a gift, and you're lucky that you can go because not everyone can. And I was like, wow. He got really passionate about that. And, I was like, wow, he's right. That is a good privilege to have. And so it kind of gets to the point of, what are we grateful for, in terms of little things even too. We feel good, like, for example, has anybody in here ever been anonymously gifted something? Whether it be, let's say you're in a drive-thru and the person in front of you pays for your, right? A lot of nodding. Doesn't that feel like the most amazing moment? Like, oh gosh, I can't believe that happened, She said, it makes me wish I ordered more. Yeah, certainly. And, again, when we think about little things like that, those are our sandwiches. Those are like the times we're like, wow, it really puts a lot of faith in humanity in terms of, well, gosh, if everyone's being that way, you could see then why emotional health would increase, hopefully, across the board for most people, right? And so, I mentioned this just a few moments ago. Oh, gosh, I've got regrets. What could I have done, or what shouldn't I have not done, or what have you? And that's very common, right? What's the most common? One of the most common is up here on the screen that we're seeing, not spending enough time with loved ones, not pursuing meaningful experiences. Nobody will probably ever go and say, gosh, and when they're like 95 years old, saying, I'm almost checking out of here. Man, I wish I spent more time checking email messages. That would have been a lot better if I would have spent more time on my email. Right? Who's going to say that, right? I mean, usually that's not the case. Or saying like, man, if only I had invested into that stock versus this one right here, I might have ended up with about $50,000 more, and I could have bought more gold and silver. I don't think most people are thinking about that probably at the end. When most people are in the casket or coffin box, I don't think they're going to be worried about, well, how do I look? Am I physically fit for the people looking down on me? It's not going to matter at that point for most of us, right? And so most of us The regrets are, well, gosh, if I look forward and I think, if I'm at my end point, wherever I'm at, I better make sure that I do some of the things that it's telling us and encouraging us. Maybe, again, telling loved ones how much we really feel, or spending more time with those, because those are the things that really matter, and those are what the research is showing as far as regrets go. So again, we're thinking about all this, we're kind of tying it together, we're getting towards the end and connecting all this together, and in a holistic way of looking at this, what moments do we still enjoy? What's our sandwich? That's what we need to think about. Again, it could be, maybe it's grandchildren, maybe it's our children, maybe it's our favorite pet, maybe it's the fact that we get to go and volunteer at a facility, or volunteer at a humane society, or what have you. What is our sandwich? Maybe it's our, spouses, our loved ones, our family, our friends, the clubs that we're a part of. What other things that we enjoy? Maybe it's Peachtree City. It's the lakes that are around here, right? Fayette County. The fact that we get to live in a very nice, affluent area like this as well. Golf carts, cart paths, etc. Going on walks, hikes, biking, etc. So you get the point. Again, everybody's going to have different sandwiches all over the point. And again, I think that's what Dr. Lipsenthal was talking about in terms of taking the moment and really concentrating on the present and really appreciating what we have. Because if we were in his shoes and we knew that a doctor told us you have less than a year to live, would we be doing what we're doing right now? Maybe the science is telling us this is what's really important, what we've been talking about here. I'll use a client, for example, I was just meeting with this morning, and we were having a good laugh about this because I was making him do some of the stuff that I was showing you, and he was on the floor. I had asked him, I was like, if you knew that tomorrow wasn't guaranteed, would you be doing any of this? He said, heck no. I cleaned it up a little bit, but he said, there's no way I would. And I was like, okay. He's like, I'm going to be honest with you, Taryn. He's like, I would not be doing any of this. If I knew tomorrow wasn't guaranteed, he's like, I'd be down at the Dunkin' Donuts ordering every single donut. But so again, you get the point, but that's a little extreme example. But again, just to tie it all together, let's think about these 5 items right here. These are the 5 categories that the research has said that if we concentrate on these more so, we're probably most likely going to have longevity with a quality health span, and also have a better sense of, again, gratitude, purpose, movement, relationships. If we keep all of that up, then that's what's going to contribute to us having probably a better life in terms of looking back and being very happy with where we're at. So these could be some action steps. You could see some of the things on here that we might be able to do. Again, I'm always big on this one right here, learning something new. I teach part-time online, and I'm always thinking, I'm grateful that I get to do that, but also learn while I'm instructing as well, because I tell my students that all the time. I tell them that this is wonderful because it's a win-win item where I'm able to learn while lecturing as well, or helping someone. I think I mentioned this the last time I spoke, that this could be so small and minute to some people, but I was driving and I saw like a turtle trying to cross the street, and all these cars are flying, and I'm like, oh gosh, and something just told me. I pulled the car over and I grabbed that turtle and I walked it across the street. And it could be something as little as that, but I just felt like it was the right thing to do. So if you ever see something like that, that somebody needs help, or somebody, even if it's a person needing help crossing the street or what have you, that could be something that makes us feel very gratified if we have that opportunity. And those moments will come. We know that, right? There's always moments like that we have opportunity that come in and say, there's something weird working with. That wasn't just a coincidence. There's a reason why that happened. So some of the things to conclude and summarize all this together, I just want to hopefully get the point across that a lot of these items that we just talked about, and especially the last one, our life really does matter. With AI and all of the artificial intelligence we're seeing with ChatGPT and et cetera, it doesn't matter how smart AI and all that is. We're going to always be smarter than that. I tell my students that all the time as well. And again, whatever we put in, we're going to be able to get and reap the benefits of, whether it's, again, doing the hard work of exercise or taking better choices of eating right, and also trying to reduce our stress wherever possible. And again, making good friendships and relationships and etc. So as it says, we don't know how many sandwiches we have left. And I like the catchy line here at the end, the sandwich in front of us deserves to be enjoyed. So it's a wonderful read. If nothing else, again, it's titled Enjoy Every Sandwich, Dr. Lee Lipsenthal. There might be a good way of, when you read it, thinking about it and saying, gosh, it puts it in a different perspective. Because I've seen this in my field many, many times of clients who are diagnosed with really severe, different various heart diseases and cancers and so forth. And it really shifts our focus and our perspective and really thinks about what's most important right now in our life. And so I like, again, as a final message, don't count the days we have left, rather make the days left count. Very nice way to kind of say that. They spun it around and just changed the wording there a little bit. So what are our next steps? And let me just throw the ball out there. If we knew we had only 1 year left to live, what would we be doing differently starting tomorrow? And so that's what we could really think about. That's our next action item. Was it one of the things that we saw earlier? Are we going to start doing more of this? Are we going to start going on longer walks? Are we going to start reconnecting with past friends and things like that and saying, you know what, I haven't talked to this person so long. I'm going to start volunteering at this mission group. I'm going to start doing something, one thing nicer every single day whenever I have an opportunity. I'm going to do a random act of kindness to somebody. So, things like that we can start thinking about as we move forward. So with that, these are the references used for the presentation. We're, I think, right on time with about 15 minutes left of Q&A. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and say that was it for what I have in terms of what I wanted to present. And I will leave it to questions now. If you do have a question, just please feel free to comment, raise your hand, I'll come to you, and that way everybody else on the video can hear. But any questions then from, yes, please.
On the step,
Mm-hmm.
should we limit how much time we use the step because of strain on the knees?
That's a great question. So everyone could hear that about the strain on the knees, like in the step example. When in doubt, always safety first, and always conferring with a physician or the general doctor who you see in terms of, is this appropriate? Everyone's going to be different on that. I always err on the side of being overly precautious whenever given the opportunity. So you know your body better than anyone else, even better than the medical doctor most of the time, because you know when it hurts or what symptoms arise whenever you're moving differently. So my advice, generally speaking, on something like a step exercise is to start slowly, and in that case, do only one level first. That way you feel comfortable. And you're like, oh, okay, that's not too bad. I can do that. You might say, that's kind of low. Let me throw another one on there. Then you know your body, and then you say, do some inventory. Did your knee start hurting after doing that? And you want to take notes and jot down things and say, well, I had 2 step risers on, and my knee didn't hurt, and I didn't feel like it caused any pain. If it's a sharp twinge anytime, then I would definitely say stop, don't do it. And in that point, then in that scenario, you want to make sure that you meet with the doctor and just kind of ask. The doctor's going to recommend definitely do the exercises, but they're going to say generally saying the same thing: know your limits and don't go too far beyond it when you're doing it. Hopefully that helps. Does it kind of? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was using the step climber at the gym
Mm-hmm.
a lot, and it never bothered me, and I would do it backwards and do 2 at a time. Good. And different things to use different muscles a little bit differently.
Yeah.
And my cousin, who's a physician, told me to stop using the stair climber because it was hard on your knees.
Oh, okay. Good point. So
there was no pain or anything. My body wasn't telling me to stop doing it.
In that case, I would say keep doing it then. Technically, theoretically, your cousin's correct that it's more shock absorption on the knees is what they're getting at. Like when I do this is harder on my knees than, say, a bicycle where I'm going like fluid motion. There's no compound stress in that case. Or if I'm swimming, there's not so much stress. Most people will say, gosh, swimming's better, stick to that, or bicycle's better because your knee is not doing this on a Stairmaster or a stair climber. My answer, philosophically speaking, is always like the best exercise for you to do is the one that you're going to do. And so a lot of us are like, well, gosh, I hate swimming. Then don't swim. Great, do something else. And so if you are telling me, if you were my client and you were saying that you're doing the step climber and it didn't affect your knees, I would say, great, give me 20 more minutes. Keep going. That's what I would say. That's my answer to that. So.
Have a stair climber, you don't go to the gym, but you do have to go upstairs periodically, what are some exercises that would help strengthen our body to be able to do that?
Good question. My answer, if you were my client, keep doing the stairs. It sounds kind of weird or silly maybe, but I would say, okay, go up and down the stairs, do 10 of those today. That's going to be your goal. Then the next week, do 15 and so forth. If you have to leave, it was a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming. Appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Appreciate it. I saw a hand on the peripheral side. Maybe I'm wrong. Was there? There was. Oh, okay, maybe it was over here. Okay. Yes.
Is that a microphone?
It sure is. You see the
And
green
where's
light?
it come, where's the sending the sound to?
Just to the recording. So that way when it's recorded, we'll know that we can
I'm
hear
gonna
it.
say thank you very much. We have speakers here that speak so
Yeah.
softly. And I've asked about a
Last
sound
week.
system. And they say it's too expensive to put in, but can you show that to Deanna? I mean, that is amazing. Yeah.
Well, okay, well, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, I tend to speak pretty clearly and I try to speak kind of loud because I always assume that I'm thinking of the person in the room who might have the weakest hearing. So I level up when possible. Now, if we were to watch the recording afterwards, then my goal is that everyone who's watching or on Zoom or what have you, that they'll be able to hear it as well too. So that's not that's a really good idea to tell Deanna. It doesn't have to be a microphone like this. It could just be a microphone that you can actually have that plugs into a PA system like the one we see with the speaker, and that would be great. Yeah.
She felt like it's nothing that they can invest in or is that very expensive to get a microphone like that?
No, Amazon. This is probably like $10. I'm guessing. I don't even. If each person throws in $1, then I think we'll be okay.
He was asked, he stood there and his wife unfortunately sat there. If someone at that end asked a question, he would raise his voice and answer it, and you could hear.
Yeah,
Right.
I remember that guy.
But I wanted to say to him, and he raised his voice for about 2 minutes. I wanted to say, speak like everybody's sitting back against the wall.
Exactly. Yeah, that's one.
I
And
mean,
you're right. And in just speaking, that's something that kind of I think over time, whoever's up here will probably see with experience, and maybe just over time they'll get to know that because the worst thing to do is to speak silently where nobody can hear you and have.
next to me was going like this.
Oh.
She kept leaning further and further forward.
Right. And I'm always sensitive to that. Sometimes people might not think about it, but you're right. I think that that might be not a bad. I think your idea is really good about the microphone to plug in with the PA because then it can come over the speaker and you can hear it.
What you're doing is a game changer.
Yeah.
So where is this sound coming out of the laptop?
It's going to be recorded right there, yes. And so I can give you a visual and show you like when we're done and just hit play and you'll be able to see it. So it should come through nicely. Yeah.
I have an answer for your question about what would you be doing.
Yeah.
I had cancer 3 times.
Oh, wow.
But I recovered. But anyway, I would be scuba diving
I love
tomorrow.
You
Scuba diving.
Oh,
I have never found, my husband and I did it for many years. I contend I can still go and he won't. But I have never experienced the peace and tranquility on earth that I could find underwater on a good dive, not 6-foot swells where the boat hits you on top of the head and pushes you underwater, that kind of stuff. We've done that too. But I mean, an easy drift dive, there's nothing like it.
What about snorkeling if he feels diving is,
That wouldn't satisfy me, that's worse.
well,
That's,
but in shallow waters, and there's even places where there's coral reefs where you can see fish just snorkeling.
no,
No,
I
Okay.
have to be down there.
Way down,
Like we
okay.
went on a shark feeding dive twice in the Bahamas, and
Wow.
it's all the ground is all broken up with shells and stuff. And I found a shark's tooth, and I stuck it in my sleeve. And then the second time we went, the guide found one and gave it to me, and I stuck it in my sleeve. when we got home, my husband had them made into earrings for me.
Oh, wow.
But you talk about a dentist, of course, it's real. So over time, the roots started to turn brown. Well, what are you going to do? They're not these gift shop plastic ones. So I went to a jeweler and he looked at me like I was out of my mind. And I thought, who enamels teeth?
Right.
A dentist. So I took it to my dentist. I love him. He's a great guy. He enameled them for me.
Oh, wow. What a story. That's great.
I mean, it was great, but these sharks are trained. They hear the boat motor. When the boat motor stops, they come swarming because they know they're going to be fed.
Wow.
It's-
Wow, that's really neat. Oh, that's
I have a
amazing.
question regarding what you had said, or what you had listed. You said, under what moments do you still enjoy 5 things science says matter the most? What is the difference in relationships and connections?
I was wondering that too.
Oh, okay. Difference with relationships and connections. So let me go back to this slide because that was. Yeah, because the relationships are going to be the personal ones. And is it this? No, it's not that one. It was. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you're right. The connection being what volunteer group am I going to be linked to today that I'm going to join? What Rotary Club I'm going to join them, or I'm going to join a bowling league. Those are the groups that I'm going to be connected to. Relationships, that was the one that was really, really personal, and that was who are the people that I think about that are closest to me, that are friends, or that I care about most. And so there is kind of a difference there in terms of what they're talking about. And so, the relatedness factors, that's definitely common between relationships and connection, but that's kind of where they're going at with that. Yeah. So good questions. We're right on time. So again, I want to say thank you, and I appreciate you all coming. So my pleasure. Yeah, certainly. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be back next quarter and look forward to meeting you all again. And nice to meet you. I hope you have a nice weekend. Oh yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, when I first was gifted this book, the client that gave it to me was really urging me to I'll never forget. He told me, he said, "You're thinking about money too much." He said, "Stop chasing money, chase happiness." And that's kind of what the theme from the book. And it resonated with me. So I think it would. I think there's common ground that could be found. Yeah. Very well said. Yeah, it's a pleasure. Yeah. I don't blame you. Yeah, I mean, the people around, it's a hazard. It's not good for our health to drive outside of Peachtree City. So I agree. Well, thanks again, everybody. Nice to meet you all, and we'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye-bye.